what happens when the average patient comes in to see you? Like you do the blood tests and where do you start? Like what, for the average listener, like what are the top 5? Because they don't know how to read their blood tests. You know, I consider myself a relatively sophisticated consumer in this department. I don't know how to read my blood tests. I know you're supposed to look at the HDL and the LDL, and beyond that, I don't really know anything.
Right.
So what should the average person be looking at? What are the most important things?
Well, I think we've had this edifice in medicine where the doctor is the gatekeeper and the healthcare system is the gatekeeper between you and your own biology. And I believe that needs to be changed. And people should be empowered to know what's going on in their bodies and to have the information to interpret it. And that's really why we co-founded Function Health, was to allow us to break down that barrier, to allow a personalized health platform that allows you access to your data and then to know what to do about it. What does it mean?
Yeah.
And
do you give them a code?
A code?
I mean, like you have all the numbers now after you get your blood tested through Function. But like now what
do you do? Yeah.
How do they figure out what it means?
Essentially, we're building the engine, and we have tens of thousands of pages of content that educates people about what it means, what to do about it, what the root cause are. So let's say you have a positive autoimmune antibody. In a traditional healthcare system, you say, okay, you're going to go to the rheumatologist. They're going to see if they can diagnose you with some autoimmune disease, and then they're going to give you an anti-inflammatory drug that's going to suppress your immune system, whether it's a steroid or a biologic that costs $50,000 a year. They're not going to go, why is this abnormal? So we guide you through an understanding of what it means and why is this potentially an issue. Is it because you have a leaky gut and your microbiome is messed up? Is it because you're eating gluten and it's driving that autoimmune biochemistry? Or is it because you're exposed to environmental toxins that are immunotoxic that affect you? So we begin to sort of sift through, or is it because you had COVID or because you have Lyme disease or whatever? And then you can sort of sift through and say, oh, gee, this is why I may be sick. And then we say, here's how you further investigate it. And here's the kinds of doctor you want to see. And here's the next steps. Or here's things you can do on your own. So it's really about self-empowerment. And
by the way, this is all the stuff that Dr. Bredesen says about preventing Alzheimer's.
100%.
This is so worth it for everybody's 100%.
Time. It's preventing everything, because it's like, there are a few common causes that drive all the chronic disease we're seeing. And it's not that hard. It's too much of the bad stuff and not enough of the good stuff that our bodies need. Mm-hmm. And when you take out the bad stuff, you put in the good stuff, which is essentially what functional medicine is, the body knows what to do. So I'll give you an example. So I had a patient come in and she had psoriatic arthritis. She had terrible inflammation of her skin and joints were swollen, the heartbreak of psoriasis. Mm-hmm. But she also had terrible heartburn and reflux. She had terrible irritable bowel syndrome. She had migraines. She had depression. She had prediabetes. She was overweight. And she was, 50-issue business coach. And I said, gee, what are all these things, how are all these things related? Instead of, seeing the best doctors, which she did at Cleveland Clinic, the best doctors in rheumatology, the best migraine doctor, the best GI doctor, the best depression psychiatrist. And she was seeing the best of every class and got the best of the state-of-the-art current model of treatment, which was just pharmaceutical drugs. Nobody said, why is she having these problems? It's the medicine of why, not what. Why do you have this? Not what disease do you have? Not what drug do I give, but why? And then we investigated, because she had all these gut issues. A lot of your immune system is in your gut. And so I cleaned up her gut. I got rid of the bad bugs. I gave her an antibiotic and antifungal, restored her microbiome with probiotics, gave her some fish oil and vitamin D. Came back 6 weeks later and she's like, Doc, everything's gone.
Wow.
I lost 20 pounds. My psoriasis is gone. My arthritis is gone.
What?
My migraines are gone. My depression is gone. I feel great. My irritable bowel, reflux are gone. And I stopped all my medications. I'm like, I didn't tell you to do that. She's like, no, I just was feeling so good. I stopped them. And so once you understand how to unlock someone's health and give them the roadmap, they can do it.
Have you seen this in children too?
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm a family doctor and I've treated, thousands and thousands of kids. And it's just so disturbing to me when I see the kinds of things that really are affecting these kids. I mean, I had one little girl who was 10 years old and she had this horrible autoimmune condition that was triggered by her eating crappy, sugary diet that was causing tons of yeast overgrowth in her gut. She also had gluten antibodies that were causing some injury to her gut lining that can trigger autoimmunity. She also loved sushi, which was weird for a kid, but she liked a lot of mercury-laden tuna. She was eating a lot of that. So she had mercury toxicity. And we basically reset her gut. We put her on an elimination diet. I gave her some things to get rid of the overgrowth of yeast in her gut, and I gave her chelation to get rid of the mercury. And she had something she was on like 1,200 milligrams of Solumedrol, which is like a horse dose of steroids.
Whoa. Every
3 weeks intravenously. She was on chemo drug called methotrexate.
What?
She was on like drugs to help with her Raynaud's and other gut issues. So calcium channel blockers. She was on a whole list of things. Aspirin because she had more blood clotting. She was on a pile of drugs. And she really couldn't function really very well. And she completely fixed it. She was 100% better. And I check in with her 10 years later. She's doing great. She's gone to college and is really healthy. And so we see that if we start to dig into the root causes and help people understand how their body is actually organized, not how medicine currently organizes it, we can do tremendous amounts. And that's really why I think functional health is so important, because it helps us leapfrog over the current medicine, empowers people with their data, and helps them understand what to do about it.
I heard you talking with someone, and forgive me if you weren't the one with this story, but I think it was you, talking about a kid's handwriting.
Oh, yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we hopefully can show this on the show, but there's a kid I had who had ADD, and this is what first got me to realize that what was happening in the body affected the brain in a very profound way. It wasn't just the mind-body effect, but the body-mind effect. And many of our psychiatric illnesses are caused by dysfunctions that we can treat, not with ADD medication, which is now prescribed.
We are going to definitely spend time on this. This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and this kid had ADD, but he had also all these other issues. He had asthma, and he had allergies, and he had stomach aches, and he had headaches, and he had a whole list of stuff. And he was seeing 7 different doctors, about 7 different prescriptions. And he was on Ritalin. He'd been kicked out of kindergarten. He was that bad.
Oh, boy.
And his writing was terrible. These kids often have what we call dysgraphia. It means when you can't read their writing, really poor handwriting. But like at 12 years old, you couldn't even read it. And his mother came to see me. We put him on a clean diet. He was only eating processed food. We did a nutritional testing, and it was like so malnourished. I mean, he wasn't really overweight, but he was really malnourished.
I don't understand. It's just so strange that a mother who would be like taking him to all those doctors and like having.
Well, she finally got to me. She didn't like it, but she's like doing the best she could. As a mother, you don't know. And then she heard
it. It doesn't even occur to you that maybe it's nutrition. I think for a lot of people, it doesn't even occur to you because especially with a child who you can process anything, no matter what you do.
And 2 months later, the mother brings him back, and he's doing better at every level, and he's off all the medications. But what was so striking to me was his handwriting. Before and after, she showed me his handwriting from his homework, and it was like a different kid. And it was at that moment I go, wow, how did his brain going from being chaotic and dysfunctional and not synchronizing properly to being kind of functioning and organized and structured so that he can actually function in the world and not have ADD, and his handwriting go back to normal? Because it wasn't like I gave him a handwriting class, Right. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And that led to me writing this book called The Ultra Mind Solution, which is how to fix your broken brain by fixing your body first. And this was like 15 plus years ago. And now there's departments of metabolic psychiatry at Stanford, nutritional psychiatry at Harvard. Guys, Chris Palmer, who's a Harvard professor, is a psychiatrist, discovered accidentally you could cure schizophrenia on a ketogenic diet. And now, there's $3 million grant that just got given to Mayo to study ketogenic diets and severe mental illness like bipolar disease and schizophrenia.
Whoa.
And we had such a stigma against this instead of understanding that this is something that actually is because our biology is just not functioning properly.
What I'm thinking about right now? After we had, did you watch that roundtable that they had in the U.S. Senate with Ron Johnson and Callie and Casey were there. And the Atlantic did a big write-up of it after and called it the woo-woo caucus.
Yeah.
They were so dismissive and disgusting about these ideas being discussed in a serious way. And that's what we're up against is that, you start to say like, maybe we can head off schizophrenia with diet.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm out, you're crazy.
Yeah, but this is actually looking at academic medical centers. This is what they're studying. Mm-hmm. Like they're looking at these things seriously because the data is there. And so, Max Planck, who was a physicist, said, science doesn't advance by convincing your opponents and helping them see the light, but because a new generation grows up that's familiar with it. In other words, medicine advances one funeral at a time.
Yes, right.
And so it's unfortunate. People get very ossified in their ideas. I mean, Thomas Kuhn wrote about this in The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, how it's very difficult to convert people who believe a certain thing, like the earth is flat or the earth is the center of the universe or that species arise in their fixed state, basically.
Or that it was an insurrection.
Whatever, Like people basically just have this very fixed view of the way things are, and it's very hard to change that. Paradigms are really hard to change. We used to think autism was caused by refrigerator mothers, that ulcers were caused by stress. And the guy who actually was a gastroenterologist would notice in the biopsies of the stomach that there was this bacteria hanging around. He's like, what is this? Maybe this is the cause. And everybody laughed at him. The whole gastroenterology field just made him a joke. And he said, well, I'm going to prove it. He drank a beaker of this bacteria. He got his partner he got an ulcer. He got his partner to scope him before and after. He took antibiotics, cured the ulcer, and then proved it, and he won the Nobel Prize for it.
Oh, wow.
So, what one day seems like a quack, and the next day is actually standard of care.
To me, it just doesn't seem quacky at all. It seems like absolutely logical and sensible. It's just people won't accept it. And I think part of it is it's so much easier to take a pill You much rather be told, just take this drug and you're good, as opposed to completely change the way you eat. And by the way, you need to move more.
I mean, it's so hard to do, Megyn, in our environment because everything is set up for us to fail. We have a toxic wasteland of nutrition that we live in. Our body, we don't need to move our bodies at all if we don't want to.
Right.
We don't get outside very much. We have so much stress. We have high levels of stress. We don't sleep well. These are just fundamental things that a human organism needs to have in order to thrive. And we take care of our dogs and our animals and our racehorses in ways that are so much better than we take care of ourselves. Like we wouldn't feed our $1 million racehorse a McDonald's big fries and a Coke. We'd feed it to our kids.
Right. Well, I was thinking about what you just said about how we're just not set up, for success here. And the family went to Scandinavia in June. We did Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. And they're all basically the same country, but in terms of their approach to lifestyle and so on. But in Denmark, they have it set up. There's some waterways there, and they have it set up so that almost every office building has a stairway down to the water.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's encouraged that on your lunch break,
you walk up and
you would go to take a swim.
Yeah.
You would go downstairs, you'd eat outside, and it's cold there. They know that. But they all bike to work, first of all. Everybody bikes. Even the royalty in Denmark and Sweden, they bike around. Very sort of mobile culture.
Yeah.
And then think about it. If you went to the office and the office culture was during lunch, we eat healthy, we go outside, we swim in the water, and then there are showers to shower off when you get back into the office. Yeah. You have a 90-minute break where you can do all of that, and then back to work.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. Yeah. We're like, what the hell were you doing away from your desk for 90 minutes?
For
what
90
do you think
seconds.
This is? Scandinavia? No, we're the USA. We produce. We're the envy of the world in terms of our production and so on. That's our mindset. There are some benefits to it, but in the health department, not really.
No, it's very disturbing. I mean, when you look at it as compared to every other country, we spend more than twice any other nation on healthcare, which is almost $5 trillion, $1 in $5 of our economy. The federal government pays for 40% of that, and it's $1 in $3 federal dollars. So we're footing the bill, and we're 48th in life expectancy. I think Cuba and Albania are better than us.
Oh my God, Albania?
I think so. Albania. Maybe they don't have good records, but like that, when you look at the list, like what are we doing here at the bottom of the list? And I mean, Trump on Joe Rogan, he showed this graph.
What's the number one reason for that? What's the number if you had to pick one?
I think it's our diet.
Ultra processed foods.
Yeah, it's the takeover of the American food supply by the industrial food system.
Yep.
And
chemicals everywhere. Within that, what's the number one culprit? Ultra processed or chemicals all over? I think
it's sugar and starch. Sugar and starch, and then you can add in the chemicals and all the rest of it.
And by the way, is bread?
Is bread bad?
Is bread basically sugar?
Yeah, well, actually, something called the glycemic index, which is how much a given food raises your blood sugar, is based on white bread. So that's 100. So that's the highest.
Yep.
Sugar is actually 80 because it's made up of fructose and glucose. But it's a little bit tricky because fructose doesn't raise your blood sugar.
But they both have the same.
Yeah, below the neck, your body cannot tell the difference between a bowl of cereal or a bowl of sugar.
Wow. Or a loaf of bread?
Or a loaf of bread. It's just the same thing. So when you eat white bread, you're basically eating sugar. And the American population consumes 152 pounds of sugar and 133 pounds of flour per person per year. That's almost 3/4 of a pound per day. The dietary guidelines, which need to be fixed, and I'm working on that with a nonprofit.
Good.
That 10% of our diet, they say, can be sugar. That's 12 teaspoons in an average 2,000 calorie diet. For a kid, the average kid's eating 36 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. And volatile markets like the one we have now don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. Aren't you thinking about that today? That's why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They've helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into one in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability or market instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess we're trying to unpack right now. How long will it take to get out of it? And at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.